So a lot of my early life was given to reliving my adoption. So it's almost like I took the past and just kept it, repeating it in the future. And it seemed as if it was different because the forms always changed. But my whole experience of using my adoption, my bicultural upbringing, all these things, I would live out in new relationships, and all that was that the form changed, but the content didn't. Now, I needed those experiences to go through therapy, to feel that rant and rage and unfairness of life, to get to a point where I could feel less afraid. Those are the gentle dreams, ironically, that we have to move through to get to a point where our fear subsides and we are able to entertain looking at things in a different way, again, which is just the whole process of the mind is becoming less terrified and willing to and it's the willingness is the key, is to see things in a different way. So it's almost as if I would keep reliving the past, and just because the time and the space and the people and the places changed, I thought it was new and different when it was just the content was always the same. So that's also kind of one of the tools of the course is to understand that we're just basically reliving the same content, the same story over and over again, thinking that just because the change in circumstances and form, time and space are different, that somehow that the form makes the content different, and that's not what goes on. Because the new thought, the current thought, is that we're always at peace. That there is no separation, that there is no duality, and there is no fear, and there is no horror, and there are no stories. There are no significance and importance in those stories because they're not needed if I'm not, if I don't have any shame to have to turn into shame and blame. Now this applies not only for me and my life as an adoption story, and again, all stories are the same, so each of us works at it from a different angle, and what we can begin to appreciate is that while our stories seem to be different, they're really the same story, and what that speaks to is that we're all the same. You remove the form, which is blinding, and see the content, it's all the same. So in my current life with my wife, what I begin to understand is that I have these moments where I feel accusing of her, I feel upset by her, or she does something that pleases me. And what I'm beginning to understand is that my upset doesn't come from anything she's done, nor does it come from anything else. It doesn't come from the stories on the TV, it doesn't come from my job, it doesn't come from my day-to-day interactions, it doesn't come from all the things that are going on inside my body. What I began to appreciate then is that there are these prompts in the world, there are these Sherpas that are holding my guilt, and there are these prompts that I immediately accuse of either pleasing or displeasing me, more importantly displeasing me, because the special love always hides the special hate. But what I began to understand is that nothing here is causal, nothing, even myself and my body and my stories are not causal, that experiences on the level of mind, which is outside of time and space, because again, this is the mirror of that content. So if I understand that my wife is not the cause of my upset, that this is not the cause of my upset, then what I can understand too is that when my wife accuses me of doing something, being something that causes her upset, then I need not react to that no more than I need to react to this fantasy that she is the cause of my upset. And what I can do instead is understand that we are literally the same content, the same being, the same mind, just in different form, different bodies in this case, different circumstances, to hide the fact that it's the same thing. And as the more that I can unlearn my sense that this is the cause of my upset, to seeing that everything in this world is about pain management. Everyone is doing this. I blame you. I blame this for my upset. And so when we began to kind of move past the form and see the content, and rather than seeing difference and separation, seeing similarity, beginning to kind of join with, I totally understand what you're doing because it's the same thing that I do, then the world begins to collapse. Now, obviously there are these horrendous experiences that you see on TV, again, terrorism and things that are going on in war situations and abuse to children, that seems to stretch our ability to do these things. And the Course also, another one of the tools is to understand that as we begin to unteach, unlearn what we've taught ourselves, that we move from a state of suspiciousness to viciousness. Now, what does that mean? Is that the suspiciousness is always caught up in that I blame you, I'm suspicious of you. The viciousness comes when I kind of begin to curtail the blame and I have to sit with the shame. And as I this is what we do. As I sit with the shame, what I really want to do is put it out, expel it out, vomit it, shit it out onto everything around me. So it seems as if the world around me, the forms around me intensify that, when what's really happening is that I'm beginning to change the strategy from blame and to really expose the shame and really kind of understand the content of my mind more, and then becoming afraid of that and then looking for things to pin it on in the world. But what's helpful is to see that that the form just masks that, and that we're all the same. There is nothing different going on here, that it's a repeated strategy and content, and the more one practices that, the more one is able to correct their perception, the more kind of ease and comfort there comes in doing this. So that's kind of the practice, is that everything we go through holds this opportunity to really examine how we're casting it and what we've taught ourselves, and then to ask the question, am I willing, do I want to see this differently? And usually not until someone is completely in a state of almost unbearable pain does one begin to kind of look for another way out. So it's unfortunate that we do that, but we have the opportunity to do that in every situation, and not that we need to, because it becomes almost like the centipede trying to watch itself walk, and you just start to kind of get discombobulated. But the fact of the matter is that in everything we do, from the things that we're not aware of, breathing and drinking water until those things are removed from us, to brushing our teeth, to the clothes we put on, to how we move about our day-to-day world, is nothing but a reflection of this strategy of shame and blame, and trying to hold on to individuality, separation, specialness, disregard the horror that it necessitates to become and to be founded on, and somehow make it bearable. So sometimes it's very helpful to understand that peace is the natural state. No sense of opposition, no sense of lack, no sense of need, complete ease, complete transcendent sense of well-being. So the question then becomes, if that's not my experience, either within myself or by proxy, because I worry about people around me or I get angry, I mean, I can't very well be at peace when I think that I need to worry about my children, my family, my community, my country, the planet, all those things that we use to kind of gauge our specialness and our orientation. So to understand, if peace isn't my constant experience, then I'm doing something to keep that from my awareness, and that becomes a really critical tool to kind of gauge oneself in the world, and then to be wholly accountable that I don't want the peace and I'm doing something to keep that out of my awareness. Again, another powerful kind of contribution of the Course is to really understand that one always has the experience that one wants. Again, not to get caught up in form, but the content of the experience is self-dictated, it's self-wished, it's self-willed, which is why willingness becomes so much a part of the Course too. So in many ways, what this is almost getting to, the difficulty of the Course, is that where I'm eventually led to is to eliminate, to curtail, to no longer blame. And not using that strategy, then I'm stuck with the shame. And to sit with that becomes almost overwhelming, almost intolerable. To understand that we made a universe to dilute the intensity and dispel that and try and get it out of one's mind. So it's not a simple. I mean, it is a simple process and not an easy process, because I've made it something so horrifying, so intense, which is the degree of my longing for self-importance, for significance, for being noticed. And so what I do when I began to remove the blaming factor, and that includes everything in my life. It's not just who I'm upset with. It's all the things that I account for on the special love side, the things that I think make life pleasant, that make life pleasurable. So I take a look at all of that, and when I no longer use that as the shame and blame, or the accounting for, and the causal, or the pursuit of happiness, it's almost like letting go of even the pursuit of happiness and understanding, sitting with the single content of the mind when it is rejecting peace is that of shame. So the difficulty of the Course, and why it's such a hard sell, and why it's not popular, is that it takes one to this point of relinquishing blame to sit with the shame. Now, the importance of that being is that until I experience the real full brunt, the untampered shame that is a part of specialness, the ego thought system, of the benefit of duality, until I really know that this sucks, that it's not in my best interest, and furthermore, that it's just fantasized. It's not until I can get to that point that I can really let it go. If I hide where it is, and if I blame, I will never be able to retrace to its origin, its initiation point, its ontology, its genesis. And that's the temptation of blaming, is that it constantly takes me out of that. So that's the struggle. But when we get to that point of being able to kind of no longer blame and sit with the shame, that's where the Course instructs to ask for help. And it comes in the form of perhaps asking Jesus or your higher power. But what it's about is, what I'm really doing is saying that there must be something else. There must be something other than this experience. And so what I'm really expressing is my willingness to be wrong, my willingness to think that there is another option. And I'm still afraid to kind of, I oscillate and I'm ambivalent, but what I'm beginning to express is that specialness. I know that there is something not to my benefit about it, and that there must be a different option. So the degree to which I began to feel a pervasive sense of well-being for myself and for everything, and a calm in all situations, that doesn't mean that I still don't participate and fill out my role. Very much, again, all the world is stage, and we're actors on it. I go about my daily living. The world doesn't have to change. It's my understanding of it, my use of the world, that radically changes, and therefore my ability to navigate it with increasing ease is what occurs. So in many ways, while I let go of, and while we're compelled to kind of even let go of the pursuit of happiness, we actually do become happy. We become less anxious, less frightened. Not that the circumstances around us change, but simply because we're happy because we know where happiness is. We're happy for not the reasons that we thought, not for anything that has to do with anything in this world. So part of the practice in this relearning and retracing one's steps and climbing up the ladder, rather than trying to bring the top of the ladder down to the bottom, what we began to do is become less preoccupied with what goes on in this world, and having this sense of ease and peace as we move about it. So these are all the learning tools that I have at my disposal. I can use them if I want. Obviously, these aren't the only tools. I've reflected a little bit upon my own experiences with Zen Buddhism and some of the tools offered there. All paths lead to Rome, and therein I don't need to criticize or compete with somebody else's paths or tools. These are simply all tools that have the destination of experiencing true peace. And what I need to pay attention to is doing my path, correcting my perception, because when I go from my body among many bodies to the one unifying mind, I then am everyone, am everything, so I can't very well exclude something, and that's what real love, real peace is about it, is that it's not exclusive at all, it's completely and totally inclusive, which is what reminds us of the state of non-duality. So again, the world doesn't need to change. What changes is my understanding and use of the world, if I want to, if I have that willingness and interest to. What I'm really doing now is I know how the magic trick works. I'm no longer impressed with it. I get how it works, and I can spend some time watching it and demonstrating to myself that, yeah, I really get how this works now. And so I see clearly because my mind is clear. It doesn't have these obstructions. It doesn't have these fabricated things that become so upsetting and then need all these strategies to employ. One of the difficult things is to understand is that from the Course's teaching, the purpose of the world is to teach you there is no world. The purpose of yourself is to teach you there is no self. The purpose of duality is to teach you there is no duality. The purpose of choice is to teach you there is no choice. The purpose of special love is to teach you there is no special love. The purpose of everything is to teach you that there is no everything. There is no anything. There is no nothing. There is simply this non-duality, this no internal separation and need for relationship, for the anxiety that comes up when things become different and separate. So I think, let me just review some of these tools that we've talked about, with the understanding that what I'm really doing is moving from a mindless body to a mindful, unifying mind, and then to the Christ-God non-duality. So those tools from the Course they're included here, but there's obviously a lot more. And how you use them is up to you. But there's the ego thought system, there's specialness, there's sin, guilt, fear, there's cause-effect, there's form content, there's denial and projection, there's special love, special hate, and relationship. There's victim and victimizer, there's the idea of brother, there's this notion of mind which comes into dreamer and dream, puppeteer and puppet, child and toys. There's this notion of nothing has any meaning, significance, or importance, but what I give it, it's really all of my making. And then there's this notion of forgiveness. So all of those are tools that we can use to look at the circumstances and what we think in this world differently. So I'm just going to read, love this book. Again, special form. It only has the meaning that I give it. But I just wanted to read something here that kind of encapsulates what we've been talking about, as the entire book does. This from chapter 18 in the text, The Passing of the Dream. Dreams show you that you have the power to make a world as you would have it be, and that because you want it, you see it. And while you see it, you do not doubt that it is real. Yet here is a world clearly within your mind that seems to be outside. You do not respond to it as though you made it, nor do you realize that the emotions the dream produces must come from you. It is the figures in the dream and what they do that seem to make the dream. You do not realize that you are making them act out for you, for if you did, the guilt would not be theirs and the illusion of satisfaction would be gone. In dreams, these features are not obscure. You seem to waken and the dream is gone. Yet what you fail to recognize is that what caused the dream has not gone with it. Your wish to make another world that is not real remains with you. And what you seem to waken to is but another form of this same world you see in dreams. All your time is spent in dreaming. Your sleeping and your waking dreams have different forms, and that is all. Their content is the same. They are your protest against reality and your fixed and insane idea that you can change it. In your waking dreams, the special relationship has a special place. It is the means by which you try to make your sleeping dreams come true. From this, you do not awaken. The special relationship is your determination to keep your hold on unreality and to prevent yourself from waking. And while you see more value in sleeping than in waking, you will not let go of it. And that's the difficulty, is that what we're really after is a better dream, a better set of circumstances, rather than truly awakening. We are addicted to this notion of specialness, which comes down to the belief that this is me, this is Tom, and each of us do that. As I mentioned, the experience of individuation, the experience of specialness, is that this is me, this being is me, in contrast to everything around me, and that my orientation is always focused on this. And to really let that go and no longer wish for that, want for that, is the state of waking up. But I'm so afraid of losing the self that I've made. And so we continue to read and practice.